Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the story begins way back in the year 1066. That's when William, the Duke of Normandy, defeated our Saxon King Harold II at the Battle of Hastings, known as William the Conqueror. He was crowned King William I on Christmas Day of that very same year. He then, of course, proceeded to reign over his newly conquered subjects. But we all being Saxon, we didn't take kindly to that Norman domination. There was still a lot of fighting going on around the countryside. And so, therefore, in order that the king could rule the country safely, he ordered that a series of royal palaces and fortresses to be built throughout the countryside. The site which has been our palace on was on the ruins of an old Roman fort, just to the east of London, which we now know to be the White Tower. There it is, look, in all its glory. But the Tower of London, ladies and gentlemen, is the very first building of its type to be built here in England. And over the years, well, of course, it's been put to many uses. Originally becoming a citadel to command and defend the city of London. A repository for the storage of state documents, coins of wealthy people, titled people, many of which were taken up to Tower Hill. Now there's a small monument you see directly behind you. The white bandman, there he is, goes right in front of it now, there. Behind that, ladies and gentlemen, is the area of the public execution scaffold. It's right next door to Tower Hill Tube Station. Now that was convenient, wasn't it? A man by the name of Simon Sudbury, way back in the year 1381. His only crime was that he dared to introduce the poll tax. The peasant didn't like that. They took him out of his tower, screaming and kicking up there to that hill, and there they hacked off his head. But the last person to lose his head up there was in 1747. A man by the name of Simon Fraser, Lord Loving, executed his part in the Second Jacobite Rebellion, led by Bonnie Prince Charles. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I would now like you just to use your imaginations. Picture the scene up there, all of those hundreds of years ago. There would have been literally thousands of you there to watch this poor unfortunate soul give his final address to you all. Well, having done so, prior to putting his head onto that block, the prisoner, he would now be obliged to pay the executioner a small tip or gratuity, in order, of course, that he can carry out that task diligently and hopefully in one swift, painless chop of the axe. A payment which today we now know it as severance pay. That was my best joke. But the bell tower is indeed the strongest of the 13 towers built on the inner wall. They built it on masonry, 30 foot deep, inside two circular chambers, one on top of the other. And because of its very strong construction, a number of notable people have been held imprisoned inside of it, one of which, a man for all seasons, Sir Thomas More. Have you heard of him? Yes. And on the day of the execution, he managed to combine the duties of all three. But as James put his head onto that block, what had he forgotten to pay Jack? Severance pay. Well, of course, Jack wasn't very happy. That formed part of his salary. He said, right, you're not getting away with that. As James put his head onto that block, Jack very carefully raised that axe in the air to the complete quiet of the crowd, waiting in eager anticipation. But then witnessed the blade of the axe come crashing down. A great cheer came up. Yay! As bits of bone, flesh, tissue, blood, flicks and motes and broken notes. But then again a deadly hush, and then to be heard from the crowds, gasps of amazement. Oh, well done. See, the crowd had noted to their horror that the blade of the axe had only gone halfway through the neck. Jack was beside himself with happiness. He brought the axe down a second time, 3 times, 4 strokes of the axe, and still the head remained stubbornly attached to the body. 5 strokes of the axe. Well, we've told now Jack was getting very tired. He knelt down beside that body, he removed his butcher's carving knife. He then proceeded to cut away the last stubborn sinews off. Gory enough for you?
Yes.
Well, now you know where ketchup comes from, don't you? There behind me, the great Norman keep known as the White Tower. Built on orders of William the Conqueror by Gundulf of Beck in the year 1078, it took him nearly 20 years to finish. It is, in fact, the largest of the 20 towers here within this 18-acre site. Standing over 90 feet tall. On each corner you can see turrets, 3 square ones. One on the very far side which is round. The site of the very first Royal Observatory. That was then removed, ready for the 17th century. But on the tops of those turrets, a weather vane. on which you may just make out the royal standard. It denotes that this is still in fact a royal palace, but now no longer used as a royal residence. However, you should never forget for well over 500 years, all of our kings and queens lived inside of here. The ravens are indeed the largest of the crow family, and they were believed to be nesting in this area, even before this tower was built. And then they would be nesting in those turrets. But did you know that there was a legend, a myth, that goes with these birds? It's a legend that suggests, should these birds ever leave the Tower of London, the White Tower behind me will simply crumble to dust. There'd be no more kings and queens of England, and I would be out of a job. Go the other end. Oh dear. Do you think I'm going to last? Do you think I'll last? I've got another half an hour yet. Do you think I'll make it? Gosh knows. Only 6 people executed here at this spot. Who they were and how they were, I will now explain to you in the quiet of the chapel. But before we go in, may I just remind you that it is still a Christian place of worship. So gentlemen, if your religion permits, please can I ask you to remove your headdress. Sadly, there has been no photography or recordings of any type.